Hi everyone, it's me. No, 5. The desert ghost city buried in sand. The world is full of abandoned cities. Some are abandoned because they were destroyed by natural disasters or man-made ones, such as wars and so on. Others are just completely forgotten and left behind as people move to bigger and better things. While some may have been evacuated due to danger that still remains in the area today, regardless of why they were abandoned. All of these places make for incredible discoveries, especially when they've been lost to time for hundreds of years. And while most of them are only recently being found, there are others that have been lost for thousands of years. And in this video, we'll be taking a look at one of those places. A city that was once enormous but is now buried under the desert sands. So if you're excited to find out more about the city, stay tuned and let's get into it. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a city called Ani, which was buried in sand in what is now Armenia. This place has quite an interesting history. As it was once a major trading center between Europe and Asia, it became the capital of the Kingdom of Armenia in 284 BC, and was thought to be the largest city in the whole world. That's right, the biggest city on the planet. It remained as a major city throughout history until it was largely destroyed in an earthquake in 743 AD, which caused most of the population to flee from the city, leaving it largely abandoned after that point. But recent excavations have found evidence of even older settlements in the area, going back to between 3200 BC and 2600 BC, even though it was later rebuilt. The damage done to the city during the quake was enough that it never really recovered, and eventually it came into the possession of the Mongols, and then it was pretty much forgotten about. Even though it was obviously very important in the past, historians don't know too much about the city because it was mostly destroyed before written history even really started. Most of what we know comes from a few ancient historians like Plutarch, Strabo, and Ptolemy, who all mention the city in their own writings. In the Middle Ages, stories of the city circulated throughout Europe, with people claiming that it was the biblical city of Ararat, where Noah's Ark landed after the Great Flood. But while this is a fun idea to think about, there's no evidence that this is true. In fact, scientists say that there's not really any evidence that a Great Flood ever happened at all. However, there is evidence that the city did exist. That's because, in the early 19th century, Russian explorer and archaeologist Nikolai Mar found a fortress that had been built by King Tigranes I in the 2nd century BC. He also found the ruins of palaces, temples, and other structures in the area as well, which helped to confirm that the city of Ain had existed. But that was really the last time that anything was done to excavate the site of Ain until much more recently. Between 2001 and 2008, a series of excavations revealed many new details about the city, including its layout, infrastructure, and how it grew over time. These excavations uncovered streets, houses, public buildings, and other structures that helped to paint a picture of what life was like in the city during its heyday. Number 4. What was life like? As we already mentioned, very little written history exists from the actual time that the city was occupied. So a lot of what can be learned about life here has to come from archaeologists studying the remnants of the city itself. However, thanks to their work, we have a much better idea of what daily life was like here. The city was divided into two main parts, the citadel and the lower city. The citadel was the main administrative and religious center of the city, and was located on top of a hill. It contained the royal palace, temples, and other important buildings. The lower city was where most of the people lived and worked, and it was surrounded by thick walls for protection. The excavators found evidence that the city had a sophisticated water system. They discovered a series of tunnels and pipes that were used to bring water from the nearby mountains to the city. The water was used for drinking, cleaning, and watering crops and gardens. They also found evidence of a sewage system, as well as public baths, which suggests that the city was well planned and organized. In addition to these public works, the excavators also found evidence of private homes and businesses. They found houses of various sizes and shapes, as well as shops, workshops, and warehouses. The houses were typically made of stone or mud brick and had courtyards and gardens. Some of the houses even had frescoes and other decorations. This suggests that the residents of Ain were prosperous and enjoyed a high standard of living. The excavators also found evidence of a thriving trade network. They discovered coins, jewelry, and other goods that had been imported from all over the ancient world. This includes items from Greece, Rome, Persia, and India. It seems that Ain was truly a melting pot of cultures, just like many cities today. All of this evidence paints a picture of a vibrant and thriving city, a bustling hub of trade and culture. It's hard to imagine that such a place could simply be abandoned and forgotten. But that's exactly what happened. No. 3. Why was the city abandoned? As we mentioned earlier, the city was largely abandoned after an earthquake in 743 AD. According to historical records, the earthquake caused widespread damage to the city and killed many people. This led to a mass exodus of people fleeing the city, and those who stayed behind were unable to rebuild it to its former glory. This is backed up by the archaeological evidence, as there is a noticeable decline in the city's size and prosperity after this date. The city never really recovered from this setback, and it was eventually conquered by outside forces. It was incorporated into the Seljuk and then Mongol empires, but it was never again a major city. By the late Middle Ages, the city was in ruins and had been completely forgotten. It wasn't until the 19th century that it was rediscovered, but even then, it wasn't fully excavated or studied until much more recently. But while the earthquake is thought to be the main reason for the city's abandonment, it wasn't the only one. The city was located in a strategic position on the trade routes between Europe and Asia, which made it a target for invaders. Over the centuries, the city was sacked and destroyed several times by outside forces. This further contributed to the decline of the city as people became too afraid to live there. There's also evidence that climate change played a role in the city's abandonment. The city was located in a semi-arid region, and it relied on irrigation to water its crops. However, as the climate changed and rainfall became less reliable, it became harder to water the crops. This may have led to famine and disease, which further contributed to the decline of the city. Number 2. When was the city rediscovered? While the city had been lost to history for many centuries, it was rediscovered in the 19th century, although nobody is entirely sure how it happened. There are some reports that say that Russian explorer Nikolai Marr was the first European to rediscover the city in 1827. He found the fortress of King Tigranes, the first, and some other ruins in the area. However, there are also reports that say that an Armenian monk named Nelis Kanjian discovered the city in 1843. Regardless of who discovered it first, the city didn't really get any attention until much more recently. That's because the city was largely buried under sand, and it wasn't until the 1970s that excavations really began. In 1975, the Soviet government of Armenia began excavating the site. They uncovered a number of important artifacts, including statues, coins, and jewelry. These excavations revealed a lot about the city's history and culture, but they were limited in scope and funding. It wasn't until 2001 that more extensive excavations began. A team of archaeologists led by Surin Maradian began excavating the site, and they uncovered a number of new and exciting things. They found streets, houses, public buildings, and other structures that helped to paint a picture of what life was like in the city. They also found evidence of a thriving trade network and a sophisticated water system. 1. The excavations today. Excavations at the site are ongoing, and new discoveries are made every year. As we mentioned earlier, the excavations have revealed a lot about the city's history and culture. But there's still a lot more to learn. The archaeologists are still uncovering new things about the city and its inhabitants. They're also working to restore the site and preserve it for future generations. The goal is to turn the site into a museum and tourist destination. But this will be done in a way that respects the site's cultural and historical significance. The city is a testament to the ingenuity and creativity of the people who lived there. It's a reminder of a time when the world was much different than it is today. By excavating and restoring the city, we're able to learn more about our past and better understand the world around us. We hope you enjoyed learning about this amazing city that's been lost to time. If you did, please leave us a like and subscribe so you can be notified when we release our next video. Thanks for watching.